House of Glory's Glory Comes Pride 2025 was a show that had one legitimately great match at the end, but getting there was a struggle with too many bad and forgettable matches weighing everything down. When you look at a 7-match card and only one breaks 3.5 stars, you got a problem with consistency and overall quality. The main event delivered in a big way, but it can't save a show where the bulk of the card ranges from bad to just okay. The show opened with Zilla Fatu defending the Crown Jewel title against Bronson, and this was a solid opener that did its job without being anything special. They worked a hard-hitting big man style. Both guys did solid work, but the match was clearly held back by time. When you got two big men who can work that style and you keep them short, you're capping what they can deliver. It was fine for getting the show started, but it needed a few more minutes to really build to something, and Fatu retained with the Super Samoan Spike. I give this one just 2.5 stars. Not a bad way to start, but not a hot start either. Just acceptable. Then you get the women's title match with Indi Hartwell defending against Zayda still, and this was not good at all. The layout was off, the work wasn't there, they had no chemistry, and on top of all that, this dragged. When you stack up that many problems in one match, there's nowhere to go. Both women struggled, and it wasn't one carrying the other. They both were part of the issue here. The match plodded along without any momentum or interesting sequences. Now Hartwell, she pretty much retained with the unprettier, but this gets 1.5 star. Coming right after the opener, this hurt the flow of the show. You go from an acceptable opener to a bad women's title match, and now you're fighting uphill to get the crowd back. Idris versus Raheem was next, and this was just an okay match that didn't reach what it could have been. Royal, he ended up winning with the crucifix, and the work itself and the layout did have some issues, and they had a story that they were trying to tell, but it never escalated. When you got a story framework, but it doesn't build or go anywhere, you're pretty much stuck in neutral. I think they needed more time and better structure to deliver what they're capable of. This here gets 2.25 stars. Not bad, but nothing you'll remember. So 3 matches in, you got one solid opener and 2 matches that ranges from bad to forgettable. That's not a good start for a 7-match card. Amazing Red versus Slater had the potential to be the match that turned this show around. And for a while, it was heading in that direction. Red, he had extra pep in his step in this match, and they were working a nice mix of styles, and the match was building into something special. You could feel it heading towards great territory with how good it was going. Then the interference came in. Diamond Barago caused a distraction. Darren Richardson, he ran in. And all this was just goofy in every aspect. The timing, how they did it, all of it brought the match down. Slater, he ended up winning with the 450. Now, I understand it's a continuation of the feud between Red and Richardson, so there's a reason for the booking, but it still hurt what could have been a legitimately great match. Sometimes the booking gets in the way of the work. This here gets 3.5 stars. This was a bit frustrating because you had a match going great that could have been the first really good match on this show, and the interference here just killed it. Cardona versus Kross I thought was lame. The work and structure were both problems throughout. They did brawling beforehand, which was fine initially, but then it just became a setup for Kross to win with an ankle lock after the bell rang. So, with that being said, some people might say that that's clever booking, but it came off lame and it felt like a waste of time. The layout here, in my opinion, just didn't work. And when you got a bad structure and a finish that's trying to be clever but falls flat, you're not going anywhere good. Kross and Cardona had some layout issues the whole way, and none of it came together. This gets 1.5 stars. Now you got 2 terrible matches on a card at 1.5 star each, and you're 5 matches deep with nothing above 3.5 stars. That's a problem. The Hardys versus the main event for both the HOG tag team titles and the TNA World Tag Team titles should have meant something, but this was just very meh. Now the Hardys, they won pretty much with the swanton, and I thought the work, pacing, and layout also had problems. Listen, the Hardys in 2025 are hit and miss. Every once in a while, they'll pull out a good match, but this wasn't one of them. They were going through the motions, if you ask me, and they're way out of their prime. The main event wasn't like what you're used to seeing from them either here. To me, main event's one of the better independent tag teams out there, but in this match, they was just there too. Nothing really here worked for me. It was all meh all the way through. I get this one 2.25 stars. When your double championship match is meh and forgettable, that's a bad sign. So 6 matches in, and you still haven't found anything to break 4 stars. Charles Mason defending the HOG title against Man Like DeReiss in a no DQ match saved this show from being a complete disaster. I thought this was great. Way better than expected. Mason, he retained with the $1 billion driver from the second rope through a door. Now going in, my expectations were very average to possibly good, but they had a lot of time here and did more spots than expected. I thought everything came together. The violence, the story, how they worked together, all of it just clicked. They took their time building the match, though some parts did drag a bit, and the no DQ stipulation gave them room to work with weapons and spots in a controlled way. But they also went crazy with things like climbing up a scaffold and falling down. The layout here mostly worked. They had some good near falls, and they escalated it as it's built up to the finish. This here gets 4.5 stars. I thought this over-delivered in a big way and gave the show one legit great match to end on. The problem here is that one great match can't save a show with this much dead weight. You got 2 matches at 1.5 star, 3 matches hovering around 2.25 to 2.5 stars, 1 at 3.5 that should have been better, and 1 at 4.5 at that. The ratio of good to bad is way off here. The women's title match being bad right after the opener killed the momentum here. The Jackson vs. Royal match being forgettable didn't help. Red vs. Slater getting hurt by goofy interference took away what could have been a second really good match. Cardona vs. Kross being lame added another anchor here. And the tag title match being meh for a double championship match, to me is inexcusable. This show lacked consistency. When 5 out of your 7 matches are 2.5 stars or below, you got a weak card that's struggling to sift through. The main event matters, and it delivered. But it's one match at the end of the show that had too many problems before you got there. The pacing was off. The middle of the card was a slog. And there wasn't enough quality here to make this worth watching beyond the main event. You could watch Mason vs. DeReiss and skip everything else without missing much. That's not what you want from a full show here. This here gets a 6.5 out of 10. Not recommended.